why do you want to work here? It's like, duh, because I need a job, right? That's what it feels like, but that's not what they're asking. That's the first thing everyone needs to know, especially if you're new at this. They're not actually asking why you need a job. What they're asking is, why do you specifically want to work here, right? Maybe you applied to hundreds of jobs in your job search campaign and you got a couple of interviews, and this is one of them, right? And you come down there, or you do it remotely, which is increasingly common these days. And they ask you, why do you want to work here? And what they're asking you is, what is it about our company or our organization that made you want to apply for this, right? And a lot of times, if you haven't thought about this in advance, you might be like, I don't know, you guys were the first ones to respond, which would be a terrible answer, by the way. So just so everybody's clear on what they're actually asking here, they're saying, why us? And if you say, I don't know, that's bad. Okay, so you don't say because I need a job, because I don't want to starve, all those kind of answers. Those are all bad, very bad answers. They can probably eliminate you just on the strength of that, okay? The other things, these smart ass answers I've heard, you should say, why should I work here? It's like, no, you shouldn't, right? These are all stupid. Basically what this question is they're looking for proof that you've researched this employer. That's what the question's about. Do you know who we are? First of all, do you know who we are? Do you know what we do? And then hopefully the answer is yes. And then assuming that, why would you want to work here? Why would you want to work for us specifically, right? So in order to answer that, you'd have to have done some research on this employer. Usually that involves 2 minutes with Google or ChatGPT or some other resource like that online, okay? And then the other thing they're looking for is, apart from proof that you've taken the effort to spend 2 minutes looking up this employer, the other thing they're looking for is an overt display of passion. Because you might know about the employer, but, you really don't give a rat's ass about working for them. That's how you honestly feel. And if that translates, that also could be something that eliminates you. They're not looking for people that just need a job, because a lot of applicants apply to these things. They're looking for someone who passionately, specifically wants to work for them. Now, maybe that's a tall order, but that's what they're looking for anyway. So in order to pass this question, you've got to sort of convince them on some level that there's a certain amount of interest on your part to work for them. Okay, so those are kind of the two things they're looking for. Have you done the research? Do you want to work here? Do you have passion to do this work or to work with them? This is all based on a lot of modern recruitment and selection theory that the candidate that has the most interest in the job tends to work out, has the highest likelihood of working out, right? So they're looking for that interest. They're looking for signals that you are interested. One of those would be all about the company, right? And it's also based on, I'm not sure where this comes from, if there's actually data behind this, but nevertheless, this is taught as a principle to recruiters, is that the person that's most interested in the role and the employer will likely stay the longest. Okay, so I don't know where that comes from, if that's data driven or that's just something that somebody thought up, on their third bottle of whiskey. I'm not sure, but that's the theory that drives them asking questions like this, okay? So basically they're looking for flattery, but not flattery for them personally. They're looking for flattery for their organization. So for example, you would say, I know all about you guys. You guys are the leading provider of data center solutions or, whatever, or you're the leading provider of welding services to the marine industry, I don't know, whatever it is. So it shows that you know what you're talking about. It shows that you understand what's great about them as an organization, right? Or about the work they do in this role. You could maybe turn it around and say, well, in this role, this is what it involves, and I'm passionate about doing that. I know you guys do that. You're obviously hiring, for someone in that role, and I know all about the role, and I know that you guys, use a lot of people like that. So that's why I'm here. I think this is a fantastic opportunity to do this kind of work, which, is really, really cool. Something like that, right? Okay, and the whole point that you need to do here, as far as I'm concerned, is basically convince them that you want the job. You actively want it. You don't want a job, you want this job, right? That's what they're looking for. And that's what I recommend that you show directly or indirectly when you answer this. Just as an aside, we've talked before, and I've done videos before. It's a common kind of thing that's out there. Hopefully you guys know this, is that you get bonus points in a job interview if at some point you indicate to them that you want the job. You say, I want this job. Okay, you don't have to use those exact words, but that's the sentiment that you convey. Okay? If you do that, recruiters generally really like that. Oh, and by the way, you don't say it in a desperate way, like I need money, I want this job. No, you say it in an inspired way. Like, wow, this is so cool. This is a tremendous opportunity. I want this job. Something like that, right? That's what they're looking for. That signals that you might be the right person for this in their mind, okay? You know, you're motivated to do this specific job. That suggests you would be satisfied being in the role, right? That's the connection they're making. That's why this carries weight with them. Now, if you can back this up with evidence of some kind, with stories or, your background, something like that to say, look, I like this work for this reason. I have this personality, I have these skills, I have this education. Those combine to make me really good at this kind of activity. And this role involves a lot of that type of activity. It involves someone who would be doing that kind of thing most of the time, and for me, that works out really well because I enjoy doing that. Now, as you can maybe see in my track record here, I have been in those types of jobs for quite a few years, and I've stayed in those jobs because I enjoy doing it. I feel that I have a particular talent for it, and, as far as I can tell, this role involves doing that kind of work, so it's a great fit. Like something of that nature. I'm just sort of making this up off the top of my head, but, that's the kind of thing they would want to hear. So to sum up, the best answer would be to talk about the organization. Okay, they say, why do you want to work here? And then you talk about them. You say, well, I know that you guys do this and you provide this and this is your competitive edge and, things like this, things of that nature. You talk about the organization. You can maybe talk about what you like about their products, if that applies, or the way they operate, if you know about that. Right? Something you know about the organization that you think is really good. Pick a couple of things that they do or that they are and tell them why you think that's awesome. Okay, that's basically what lets you pass this question with flying colors. Talk about, how this role fits you perfectly. It fits with your personality, it fits with your expertise. Okay, so you do all that kind of stuff or things like that. That's what they're looking for. That's what they're probing for by asking things like this. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. I think that I covered pretty much every aspect of it, but let me know if you have any more questions about that. That's how you handle the question, why do you want to work here?